high spiritual awakening makes you dislike people? Are you evolving or antisocial? Carl Jung. What if the suffocating urge to abandon your closest friends isn't a betrayal, but a violent psychological survival instinct? You aren't losing your mind. You are shedding dead skin. Discover the terrifying, unspoken truth about why destroying your old life is the only way to save your soul. A sight in the crowd, the pulse of pain and empathy. Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone you have loved for a decade and realized, with a sudden, icy terror, that you are staring at a complete stranger? Not because they have changed, but because the very fabric of your reality has quietly, violently torn open. You are sitting there, breathing the same air, smiling the same smile, but inside, a silent scream is tearing at your throat. You are drowning in plain sight, suffocating on the emptiness of the words being spoken around you. And the most horrifying part is that no one even notices the water rising. The inner multiverse warmly welcomes you to a space where we do not shy away from the shadows of the human experience. If this unsettling truth echoes the quiet aches in your own chest, I urge you to subscribe and join our community right now. Your support is the vital heartbeat that fuels our journey into the depths of the psyche, allowing us the motivation to keep bringing these unspoken, heavy truths into the light in our future videos. Picture the scene where this agony usually strikes. It is a Saturday evening. The air is thick with the scent of roasted coffee beans, the familiar clinking of glassware, and the steady, rhythmic hum of comfortable conversation. Around you sit people who have formed the architecture of your life. They are laughing, exchanging anecdotes about their weeks, dissecting the mundane details of daily existence, the latest trends, the superficial grievances of the workplace. By every conventional metric, this is a portrait of warmth and belonging. Yet, there is a leaden, suffocating weight pressing down upon your chest, threatening to crush the breath right out of your lungs. While the world around you engages in a seamless choreography of social interaction, you feel as though you have been submerged underwater. You hear their words, but the syllables blur into a meaningless, foreign drone. Their laughter rings entirely hollow, and the physical act of forcing a smile onto your own face feels akin to lifting a boulder. You are physically tethered to your chair, but psychologically, you are light years adrift. You observe these faces, faces you once loved with effortless ease, faces that hold countless shared memories, and a quiet, creeping panic washes over you. The realization hits with chilling clarity. You simply want to escape. You desperately want to go home. This is not a passing shadow of introversion or a fleeting bad mood. This is a profound, visceral rejection. Your very biology is repelling the environment. You are hit with a sudden, bone-deep depletion of energy that has absolutely nothing to do with physical labor. It is the agonizing exhaustion of the performance. Every polite nod, every fabricated chuckle, every forced expression of interest is siphoning your life force. You are suffering a severe, undeniable allergic reaction to the casual, everyday inauthenticity that seems to govern the social world. In the quiet, tortured sanctuary of your mind, a barrage of agonizing questions begins to rip you apart. What is fundamentally wrong with me? Why have I grown to deeply resent the very people who have been nothing but kind to me? Am I spiraling into a bleak, irreversible depression? Am I mutating into a hopelessly bitter, antisocial recluse? Or, far worse, am I developing a toxic silent arrogance, a superiority complex that sneers at the people who once constituted my entire universe? You sit there, fingers numbly wrapped around a cold drink, wrestling with a monstrous sense of guilt. You feel utterly defective for your internal detachment. You feel ungrateful. The chasm between the external camaraderie at the table and the desolate wasteland inside your mind is terrifying. You are completely surrounded by humanity, yet you have never felt more intensely, devastatingly alone. If you are hearing these words, and if this exact scene resonates with the secret agonies you have been burying, I need you to lean in and listen to me as if your life depends on it. I have sat in that exact chair. I have stared into that identical void, deafened by the noise of a world I could no longer recognize. I know the suffocating guilt that gnaws at your bones when you can no longer bring yourself to care about the trivialities that seem to animate everyone else. But I'm here to tell you a crucial, life-altering truth. You are not broken. You are not malfunctioning. You are not descending into some cold, arrogant darkness. You are simply growing up. You are undergoing a silent, violent, and agonizingly beautiful metamorphosis of the psyche. The excruciating discomfort you are feeling is not a symptom of a psychological disease. It is the brutal growing pains of a soul that has irrevocably outgrown its container. You are waking up, and the terrifying first stage of waking up is realizing with absolute certainty that you have been asleep in a room full of people who are still dreaming. The echo chamber of the past. Decoding the shift. To understand this brutal awakening, we must first examine the very architecture of the relationships we are suddenly desperate to flee. For years, you built a home in the shared complaints about difficult bosses, the cyclical drama of romantic entanglements, and the comfortable, predictable rhythm of weekend escapades. These connections were the mirrors in which you saw your own reflection, validating your place in the world. But as your internal landscape began to shift, those mirrors cracked. The conversations that once felt like a warm blanket now feel like sandpaper against an open wound. You sit across from someone you genuinely care for, and as they launch into a familiar grievance they have recycled for the better part of a decade, you feel an agonizing disconnect. It is not that you have stopped loving them. It is that your threshold for the superficial has completely evaporated. You are no longer interested in treating the symptoms of an unlived life. You are violently hungering for the cure. Your mind has started to crave discussions about purpose, mortality, the terrifying vastness of the cosmos, and the quiet, sacred corners of the human heart. You want to talk about the things that keep us awake at 3 a.m., the fears we dare not name, and the radical, frightening courage it takes to heal our deepest traumas. When you bring these raw, bleeding pieces of your soul to the table, they are met with polite blinks, an awkward clearing of the throat, and a swift pivot back to the safety of sports or television. In that microscopic fraction of a second, a profound tragedy occurs. You realize that the people who know your history do not know your heart. This realization brings with it a uniquely agonizing brand of grief. We are taught how to mourn the dead, and we have countless cultural rituals for surviving the explosive heartbreak of a romantic rupture. But no one teaches us how to mourn the living. No one prepares you for the protracted, quiet funeral of a friendship that has simply run its course. You are not mourning their absence. You are mourning the death of the version of yourself that used to fit flawlessly into their puzzle. You look at their faces and remember the nights you felt invincible together, but those memories now belong to a ghost. The person they expect to show up to the dinner party no longer exists, and the effort required to resurrect that ghost for a few hours is precisely what is draining your life force. You are a snake trying to squeeze back into the skin it just shed. It is biologically impossible, and attempting it only causes suffocation, a mirror of guilt, navigating the backlash of change. Yet this profound internal shift does not happen in a vacuum. It inevitably collides with the rigid expectations of those who desperately wish to keep you exactly where you were. As you begin to quietly withdraw, declining invitations and seeking refuge in your own company, the backlash begins. It rarely starts as outright hostility. It manifests as subtle, passive-aggressive jabs wrapped in the guise of concern. You never come out anymore. You're taking things too seriously. You've changed. Those 3 words, "you have changed," are hurled at you not as a neutral observation, but as a severe indictment. In the unspoken social contract of the tribe, changing without permission is a profound betrayal. By outgrowing the dynamic, you inadvertently hold up a mirror to their stagnation. Your quiet pursuit of depth becomes a loud, glaring threat to their comfort in the shallows. This is where the psychological warfare truly begins, and the enemy is not your friends. The enemy is your own deeply ingrained conditioning. For a long time, you will internalize their discomfort as your own failure. You will lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you are simply becoming a cynical, insufferable snob. The guilt is a heavy, suffocating cloak. You remember the times these people held you when you cried, the favors they did for you, the history you share, and you tell yourself you owe it to them to stay. You force yourself back into the arena. You try to laugh at the jokes, you try to nod along to the gossip. You try to artificially lower your frequency so you do not disrupt the harmony of the group. But authenticity is a relentless taskmaster. Once you have tasted the pure, unadulterated air of living in alignment with your true self, pretending to be someone else becomes a physical agony. You realize that loyalty to your history cannot come at the expense of your destiny. Staying in rooms where you have to shrink yourself to make others comfortable is not an act of love. It is an act of self-mutilation. True love, both for yourself and for them, sometimes requires the agonizing courage to walk away. It is the understanding that you are not abandoning them, but rather honoring the fact that your chapters together have simply concluded. You must stop apologizing for the evolution that is saving your life. Key sacred wilderness, embracing the weight of solitude. When you finally refuse to shrink back into the familiar mold, you step over the precipice into the terrifying, magnificent wilderness of absolute solitude. This is the liminal space, the void between who you were and who you are becoming. And it is here that the true crucible of the soul takes place. At first, the silence is deafening. Without the constant, numbing distraction of social obligations, trivial chatter, and the projected expectations of your former circle, you are left alone with the one person you have spent your entire life avoiding, yourself. The initial descent into this isolation is not peaceful. It is deeply unsettling. You feel adrift, untethered from the societal anchors that once told you who you were, what to value, and how to spend your time. In this barren landscape, the ghosts of your insecurities echo loudly. You will face weekends where your phone does not ring, evenings where the only sound is the hum of your refrigerator, and moments of visceral panic where you are convinced you have made a catastrophic mistake. Society pathologizes this loneliness. We are conditioned to view a quiet, solitary life as a symptom of failure or unlovability. But if you can resist the urge to panic, if you can sit in the fire of this isolation without running back to the lukewarm comfort of your past, an extraordinary alchemy begins to occur. The loneliness hollows you out, yes, but only to create the vast, empty space required for profound self-discovery. You begin to hear the whisper of your own intuition, a voice that was previously drowned out by the roar of the crowd. You start to discover what you genuinely love, untainted by the desire to perform for an audience. You read books that shatter your worldview. You take long, aimless walks where your only companion is the wind, and slowly, the agonizing loneliness transfigures into sacred solitude. You realize that you are not empty. You are finally free from the clutter. This wilderness is not a punishment. It is an initiation. You are detoxing from years of performative living. You are learning to become your own sanctuary, building a foundation of self-worth so indestructible that it can never again be threatened by the absence or disapproval of others. Key alchemy of authenticity, emerging into a new dawn. But this desolate wilderness is not your final destination. It is the fiery crucible required to forge a completely new, unapologetic existence. After you have wandered through the quiet shadows of your own solitude, after you have made peace with the ghosts of your past, and forgiven yourself for outgrowing the people you love, a subtle but undeniable shift happens in your reality. You stop bleeding energy. The desperate, clawing need to be understood by everyone simply vanishes. You walk into rooms with a quiet, grounded sovereignty. You no longer scan the faces of strangers or acquaintances looking for validation. You bring your own light to the room, unbothered by whether or not they possess the eyes to see it. Because you are no longer broadcasting a signal of desperate compliance, you begin to act as a powerful magnet for your true tribe. The beauty of living entirely unmasked is that it allows the right people to finally find you. You will cross paths with individuals whose eyes hold the same depth, whose hearts have endured the same solitary wilderness, and whose minds speak the exact same native tongue. These new connections will not require you to contort yourself or dilute your essence. A conversation with them will not drain you. It will electrify you. You will realize that the agony of letting go of the old world was simply the admission price for entering a universe of authentic connection that you never truly believed was possible. Looking back, the suffocating Saturday evening at the coffee shop, the crushing guilt, the lonely nights, it all makes perfect sense. The pain was the pressure required to break the seed wide open so the roots could finally reach the water. You are no longer that terrified person drowning in plain sight. You have become the ocean itself. You have learned that true belonging never requires the sacrifice of your soul. As you stand in the dawn of this new, hard-won reality, you realize that outgrowing your old life was not a tragedy at all. It was the greatest, most profound act of self-preservation you could have ever committed. You did not lose yourself in the process of letting go. You finally, irrevocably, found your way home. And finally, conclusion. The journey of outgrowing your old life is, at its core, a profound transformation from a performative existence to radical authenticity. It begins with the painful realization that the relationships and environments that once nurtured you have become suffocating, demanding that you shrink to fit a mold you have long outgrown. This realization is almost always accompanied by immense guilt and a grueling period of isolation as you pull away from the familiar. Yet this wilderness of solitude is not a punishment, it is a necessary initiation. By stripping away the noise of superficial expectations and societal conditioning, you create the sacred space required to hear your own inner voice. The discomfort of sitting alone with your thoughts eventually transfigures into a bedrock of unshakable self-worth. When you finally stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable, you step into a grounded sovereignty. You no longer drain your life force trying to resurrect a ghost of your former self for the sake of nostalgia. Instead, by boldly broadcasting your true essence without apology, you naturally attract the genuine tribe that resonates with your authentic frequency. Ultimately, walking away from what no longer serves you is not an act of abandonment. It is the highest form of self-love. You may lose the comfortable illusion of belonging, but you gain the entire universe of your true self. The pain of the shed skin is temporary, but the freedom of finding your way back home to your own soul is eternal. The profound lesson, true belonging never requires self-betrayal. If you have to shrink your intellect, suppress your passions, or dilute your authentic essence to maintain a relationship, you are not experiencing true connection. You are merely performing. The ultimate loyalty you owe in this lifetime is to your own continued evolution. Outgrowing people is not a failure of loyalty. It is the natural byproduct of a life fully lived. How to apply this to your life? Audit your energy. Pay close attention to how your body feels after spending time with certain people. If you consistently leave feeling drained, empty, or unheard, it is a biological signal that the dynamic no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Reclaim your solitude. Intentionally schedule periods of alone time. Disconnect from social media and societal noise to simply sit with yourself. Use this space to discover what you genuinely enjoy without the pressure of an audience. Stop apologizing for boundaries. When someone says, "You've changed," learn to accept it as a compliment of your growth rather than an indictment. Practice politely declining invitations or conversations that drain your life force without feeling the need to over-explain or justify your boundaries. Test the waters of authenticity. Start introducing your true, deep interests into your daily conversations. Use your authenticity as a filter. Those who are meant to stay will engage with your depth, and those who are not will naturally fade away, creating the necessary void for your true tribe to find you. A question for you. Have you ever experienced the difficult feeling of outgrowing a friendship or a familiar environment? How did you handle that transition? Please share your perspective in the comments section below so we can all read, reflect, and learn from each other's experiences. Support the channel. If this resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button. Your support is incredibly valuable and gives us the motivation to continue creating deep, meaningful content for you in the future.